Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for Fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. My name is Dan and today we're going to take a look at the team that I believe is the best possible lineup to take you through from game week 35 all the way to game week 38. The best team for these final 4 game weeks. So whether you're wildcarding or just looking as a team structure that you'd like to take for the remaining games, I think this video is going to be for you with some real key transfer targets. So if you do enjoy this one, please do drop a like, do subscribe if you're new around here. But first of all, let's have a look at the team. Okay, so I've spent 99.6 million on this team, so there is a little bit of wiggle room, maybe some upgrades that you guys could potentially make. We will make some suggestions later on in the video, as we always do. First of all, let's set up the lineup initially. So in goal, I'm going to go for De Gea, and I really kind of like this goalkeeper pick because he is a goalkeeper who you can literally play every single game now for the remainder of the season. We've got 4 game weeks left. Who is the best goalkeeper for these 4 games? And I do think it is De Gea, to be fair. So West Ham up next, then Wolves, then a nice double game week against Bournemouth and Chelsea, where you can definitely see some clean sheets in that one, and then finishing off the season with Fulham is definitely not a bad goalkeeper to go for whatsoever. He's going to be making saves as well. Some people don't rate De Gea because of his kind of ability with his feet maybe, but something you can't doubt him about is that his save potential is very much there. So I do like De Gea for this team. I think he is just a safe, clean option that you can't really go too wrong with, really. Into defense, we've got Kieran Trippier, who is maybe a little bit controversial at the moment with some blanks recently, but what has to be said about Trippier is that he does have a double game week in game week 36, so that is something that we do need to be keeping a close eye on, and I wouldn't want to go without him for that game week, even if he hasn't been getting all the FPL returns recently. What should be said is that Newcastle's defensive numbers are still pretty good. They're only really conceding 1 goal per game, so you can kind of see a world where in some of these games they maybe don't concede that 1 goal, and also Trippier has been unlucky not to get more creative kind of attacking returns as well, so I can see that in the future as well. Arsenal at home is a difficult one, however, so I can understand why people might not want him for this game week, but taking through to the rest of the season, that Brighton and Leeds double and the Leicester game after that, and even the Chelsea game in the final game week of the season, I think that's actually a pretty decent run for Newcastle. So we do want to be going in on some Newcastle players. Trippier is the best defender to go for from that team. Next up, John Stones. Now, he is probably the Man City defender to own because he has the most attacking threat. I know not really too many Man City players have attacking threat at all, really, so we are looking for the clean sheets primarily, and maybe a few of you guys are worried about Stones being rotated here and there, but he does seem to be fairly key to the way Man City are playing at the moment, with him moving a little bit further up the field. Leeds up next, which is obviously a very good fixture. Everton is pretty much guaranteed a clean sheet in most game weeks because Everton do struggle to finish chances, and then of course we have got a double game week for Man City there as well against Chelsea and Brighton. So yeah, it's a good run of fixtures for Man City, and I guess aside from Edison, it's difficult to pick out which defender you'd go for, and maybe we add Diaz into the mix as well. He's a little bit more expensive, but he does seem to be reasonably nailed on. And we're going to finish off the defense with the superstar Pervis Estupiñán, who's been doing amazingly recently, and I think he is going to be an amazing asset to own over the next 3 game weeks. We've got Everton up next, so a clean sheet, again, very much on the cards for Brighton. And we've got Estupiñán, who is providing a lot of attacking threat as well. So when we look at these doubles in game week 36 and game week 37, I do think Estupiñán could maybe get an attacking return here or there. Last game I watched him, he looked so threatening in attack, getting chances in behind the defenders, through on goal with the goalkeeper. His finishing is not great, but hey, if you're taking enough shots, you are going to get a goal eventually, and what's amazing is that when a defender scores a goal, you get so many points for him. So roll the dice with Estupiñán. If you want to go for a Brighton defensive asset, he is definitely the one to go for, in my opinion. Has that creativity as well. Into midfield, we have got De Bruyne, first of all, who is another a little bit controversial one, I admit, because we're not 100% sure on De Bruyne's fitness status right now, but when he is available, when he is fit, we know he has a very high ceiling, and those are the kind of players we really do want for these final 4 game weeks. We haven't got much time to make up the points and get those big scores, so we do want to be going for those players who are capable of getting that mega score that really is going to rocket you up the ranks in this very short, small window. The fixtures are amazing, as we know, for Man City, and we do want to be going in on their attackers because you feel like in this Leeds at home game, if you look at the Everton game as well, these 2 fixtures in particular are going to be really high scoring games for Man City, who do seem to be scoring a lot of goals at the moment. So it's going to be difficult to nail down the exact right Man City attacker to go for alongside Erling Haaland, but De Bruyne is not the worst shout as long as he is available, but that is definitely one to keep an eye on. Next up, Fernandes. So yeah, obviously Fernandes has got this double game week in game week 37 as well, and we've got some really good fixtures in and around that. We've already seen Fernandes finally getting back on the FPL returns after a lot of weeks of blanks, but they were kind of unlucky blanks, and it always looked like he was the best player in the Man United team, and I feel like we're going to see that going forward. He is going to continue to be the best player in that team. Unlucky not to get returns before. You know, he's hit the post a couple of times as well. These are very fine margins and have been indications that points have been coming. So certainly going forward, we've now seen evidence of points. We've seen evidence of assists and goals now. Let's see what he can do going forward. I particularly like that game week 37 for him. Bournemouth and Chelsea. I think that's an amazing kind of double game week for your Manchester United players. And another game I would like to get in some attackers on. But Fernandes is definitely not the only way to go. We have also got Rashford in here, but I would say that with Fernandes, I would definitely go for Rashford, but De Gea, and maybe you could go for Luke Shaw as well and actually forego Fernandes in your team. But I really like the double attack here for Manchester United. But anyway, back onto Rashford, and obviously he has been playing really well over the last game or two, getting back into his form. We already know he's getting loads of chances to score. It was just about regaining that form we saw a little bit earlier on in the year, and I think that is going to be back for this final run. Playing as a striker a lot of the time, Rashford recently as well, which is really good to get that out of position player. So I think Rashford is going to be pretty much essential player to own for the rest of the season, and would be one of my primary targets of transfers if I didn't have Rashford already for game week 35. Next up, Kaoru Mitoma. I know he's a player who a lot of people are selling because he's blanked recently, but again, he's been really unlucky, and FPL returns do look like they're on the horizon. Everton at home is a really good opportunity for some points, and then we've got the doubles after that as well. I feel like Mitoma could be a really, really nice player to own for the remainder of the season, and as someone who doesn't own him in my team, I'm a little bit jealous of those of you guys who do still have him, because I think he could be so good over these next few fixtures. He's going to be absolutely insane and really show what he's made of. He's had that rest in game week 34 as well, so that's going to hopefully give him the recharge needed to play the remainder of the Premier League games. And Solly March is our final midfielder here. So Solly March, you know, I know I've overrated him a lot maybe, but for 5.3 million, you really cannot go wrong with a pick like this. He's playing really well. He is usually the most attacking player in that Brighton team, whether that's getting assists or getting goals. In game week 34, a little bit unlucky not to get any returns in the first game, but I do still feel like going forward, he is the man. He is definitely the man to own. And if we're going to be tripling up on Brighton, which I think we all should be doing, Solly March should be the first name you pick out of the Brighton roster, I suppose. So yeah, definitely a player I'd be going for. Up front, we've got Erling Haaland. We already knew that he would be in this team, no doubt about it. You've got to have him against Leeds. You've got to captain him against Leeds as well. And then we've got the Everton game after that. We could see Erling Haaland break the FPL all-time highest points record over the next few games. It's certainly possible with that double game week there as well. So let's see what he can do over the next few games. But certainly you would think in one of these games, another hat-trick is on the way, and he's just going to keep pushing up that goal-scoring record, because one absolute machine, one absolute FPL cheat code he has been all season. And finally, we're going to go for Callum Wilson up front, who, again, it may be a little bit controversial, certainly a bit of a differential here, but also a player who I know a lot of people are looking to pick up and move into their team at the moment. Arsenal now lacking their two starting centre-backs, and they were already pretty bad defensively recently, and a game at home for Newcastle, who are scoring so many goals at the moment. You feel like Callum Wilson will go there and actually score against Arsenal. He didn't play the full game last game for Newcastle, so he is going to be fairly well rested as well. So hopefully he's going to be able for the rest of the season to just bang in those goals. Every minute he's on the pitch, he looks likely that he's going to get those FPL returns. He's going to get those goals. And I can actually see him and Isak starting in the same lineup, with Wilson playing through the middle and Isak on the left there. And I think that combination is going to work really well for Newcastle, as we've kind of seen in flashes throughout this season. So Callum Wilson, bit of a differential, but certainly a player I'd be looking to target for these final 4 game weeks. Onto the bench, guys. We have got Everson playing against Fulham, but he's just going to be on the bench. He's a very cheap goalkeeper. You could even downgrade him to a 3.8 goalkeeper if you really wanted to. But De Gea, you're just going to play every single game week for the rest of the season if you own him, I think. We have got Isak on the bench, and I know that's a slight bench dilemma, but I do back Wilson ahead of Isak. And when I look at some of these other players on the field as well, like, you know, the Brighton guys, for example, against Everton, I have a slight favour towards those guys than Isak in this game week. But hey, if you wanted to play Isak and bench one of your Brighton players and save your Brighton players for the next 2 game weeks where they have their doubles, that's absolutely fine as well. But what we've got here, which is really, really interesting, and I think something that maybe a few of us guys are maybe going to try and pivot towards, is the double Newcastle attack. The double Newcastle attack could be really powerful because, like I say, Newcastle conceding the odd goal here and there, but scoring so many, and it all seems to be about Wilson and Isak. They are the key to this Newcastle attack. They've got a double game week, they've got a fixture against Leicester after that, a fixture against Chelsea after that as well, and even this Arsenal game is not so hard for an attacker. I think it's a decent run of games, certainly for the Newcastle guys, so let's see what they can do. The double Newcastle attack, particularly for next game week, is definitely on, and I think it could look really good. I put Wesley Fofana here as a cheap bench option. Obviously, he plays for Chelsea, which is a little bit concerning at the moment, but for 4.3 million, it's not too bad. He has got 2 easy fixtures over the next 2, and then after that, he's got a double game week in 37. So, although you're probably not going to be starting him at any point during the rest of the season, he is still a decent backup to have for the remaining games. And Bueno, for his cheapness, he goes in here as well. He's been playing a little bit more than Totti over the last couple of games for Wolves, so I've kind of snuck Bueno in here. And you know what? Wolves at home are actually not such a bad team either. They're terrible away, but at home, they've actually been doing pretty well. So, overall, this is going to be the team, and a team that I think you guys should probably be looking to aim towards something like this for the final 4 game weeks, but I do have a couple of alternatives that I'd like to share with you. So, popping the alternatives on screen, I have put Edison as an alternative goalkeeper, and I've put Shaw as an alternative defender. So, what you could do here is, if you would prefer to the combination of Edison and Shaw to De Gea and Stones, I think that is absolutely fine. I think the 2 combinations will score similar amount of points, just because, you know, they're both playing for the same defenses, they both get the same amount of clean sheet points. It's just about who you think is going to get more save points, probably De Gea, but who's going to get more attacking returns? Maybe Luke Shaw. So, it's very difficult to choose which combo you want to go for, but I think both are absolutely fantastic. Maybe a small shout out for Dalot as well, who you could maybe go for as your Manchester United defender if you wanted to kind of go that way, or you could, of course, like I said, take out Fernandes and double up on the Manchester United defense as well. I think that's absolutely fine if you're struggling in midfield a little bit. Into midfield, we've obviously got De Bruyne, who is potentially not going to be fully fit for game week 35, and we don't know exactly if he's going to be rotated after that because of the Champions League games. So if you are worried, you could upgrade to Salah, make your team a little bit closer to the template. A lot of people own Salah, and in the team that I built for you today, Salah is going to be one of those players who could potentially hurt you. But then, so is Grealish. So if you wanted to go a little bit more template, a little bit safer for the final few game weeks, Salah and Grealish are definitely alternatives that you could go for. Or you could take the money out of the midfield completely with De Bruyne, you know, downgrade to someone else and maybe have a bigger focus on your attack, which is why I've put alternatives for Wilson or alternatives for Isak, depending on which player you would rather have. I would go for Kane, maybe. Final few games of the season, Kane has been so reliable. If you don't trust the midfield premiums, then maybe you could go for Harry Kane instead. He's not put a foot wrong all season, to be fair, so definitely a player I would consider owning, even though you might not really like Spurs at the moment. You can never doubt Harry Kane. Watkins is definitely an alternative here as well, and perhaps a little bit more of a template pick to go for, who has been very reliable, and Aston Villa actually have some fairly decent fixtures over the next few as well, and you reckon Ollie Watkins can get back to his goal-scoring ways, even though he has blanked in the last few. And a quick shout out to Julian Alvarez as well as a super differential if you wanted to go that way. What I'm really saying, guys, on these Man City players though, is that each of them are risky. Outside of your Haaland, outside of your defenders, you are going to be taking a risk on which third player you're going to go for, which other attacker you'll go for. But these players have such high potential to really change your rank, change your team so much. So I think it is important that we are at least considering going for some Man City players. And with Man City being the early kickoff for game week 35, we might even get some early team news as well. If you find out De Bruyne is playing, pick him. If you find out Alvarez is playing, pick him. I'm going to be waiting for the last minute to make my transfers because I do want to build a team very similar to this. It's just going to be about how I do that, what early team news we get, how can we maximize our Man City returns, because I think that's where the big points are. So that's a little shout out to Alvarez as well. Finally, guys, on the captaincy, I am going to, of course, put the captain's armband on Erling Haaland's arm. So yeah, let's stick that straight on there. We'll put the vice captain on De Bruyne in this team as well, because these are two players with high ceilings playing against a very favourable fixture against Leeds at home. Still think they're going to do very well despite Allardyce being hired, but you know, there's not really much time between now and Allardyce actually, you know, getting in the changing room, the dressing room with the Leeds boys. That sounds a little bit sus, but you know what I'm saying. But yeah, I think this is probably going to be one of the best possible teams to take through for the rest of the season. You can maybe mix it up with a couple of differentials depending on what your kind of aims are for the remainder of the season. But hey, this team looks very, very strong to me. If your team is similar to this, I think you're in a really good position. And if you can make one or two changes to get towards a team like this over the next couple of game weeks, maybe adding an extra Man City player this week, maybe adding an extra Newcastle player the week after that, I think you're going to be in a really, really nice position to finish super, super strong above all of your FPL rivals. Thank you for watching today, guys. If you did enjoy this one, please do drop a like and do subscribe if you are new around here as well. Plenty more content to come this game week for Game Week 35 and a couple of videos already on the channel as well if you want to go check them out. But aside from that, guys, thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.